So, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today virtually for the launch of our 2024 Hayes Asia Salary Guide. We just started recording this session, so if anyone missed out any details, they'll have access to this recording later. Titled Raising Above Challenges, Powering Growth, we have uncovered quite a lot of unique recruitment and hiring trends this year, and we're eager to share these insights with you today. My name is Sehana Hong, and I'm the business director at Hayes Japan. My teams cover accountancy and finance, HR, office professionals, legal, banking, and insurance sectors.
My name is Guy Howard, and I'm the head of enterprise solutions at Hayes Japan. Together with Sehana, we will be your hosts and moderators for this webinar today.
In today's webinar, we'll share a market overview of recruitment trends in Asia, Japan findings, and industry-specific insights in demand jobs in Japan as well. We'll be ending the webinar with key recommendations for both employers and employees in 2024 and a Q&A session in the end. So please feel free to prepare your questions to raise at the end. But before we dive right in, I'd like to begin with a quick introduction of who we are and what we do. As you might already know very well, Hayes is one of the leading specialist recruitment companies globally, and we're currently the market leader in both the UK and Asia Pacific. We have over 12,000 employees, staff worldwide across 249 offices and 33 different markets. We also recruit across 21 specialist industries globally. And we're one of the most followed recruitment and staffing agencies on LinkedIn with over 7 million followers and counting. We post industry news as well as tips and advice regularly, so please make sure to follow us on LinkedIn if you haven't yet. In Asia, we continue to strengthen our position in 6 markets, China, Hong Kong, Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, and Japan. So in Japan, Hayes is one of the largest foreign recruitment companies with 3 offices across the country: Tokyo, our head office in Roppongi-chome, Yokohama, and Osaka branch. At Hayes Japan, our experts provide professional services across the private sector in permanent positions, contracting roles, temporary assignments, recruitment process outsourcing, RPO, and IT solutions across 13 different specialisms written here. Here's also a quick look at our most recent awards and accolades. We have an ISO certification. We were the first international recruitment agency in Japan that were accredited with Privacy Mark. That was over 10 years ago. Recently, we have been awarded the Best HR Consulting Firms and Service of the Year and the Future CFO Excellence Awards in 2024. And most recently, we were awarded the Great Place to Work. So the insights we'll share today are based on our annual Hayes Asia Salary Guide survey. You might be well familiar with this as we have been doing this for many years. I think some of you might have attended actually our events in a nice hotel or actually in a physical venue. In fact, this year marks the 17th edition of our guide. The insights and trends are based on survey responses of nearly 9,000 professionals in the 6 Hayes Asia markets. For those who participated in the survey, I'd like to thank you for taking the time and sharing your valuable insights that make this salary guide today. Now, I'd like to pass it over to my colleague Guy Howard, who will share with us the Asia highlights.
Thanks, Sehana. So in the first part of the presentation, we'll talk about Asia highlights, and I'm going to focus on 5 key factors: the economic outlook, hiring forecast, a quick look at professional growth, top priorities for employees, and last but not least, the influence of AI in recruitment. So firstly, let's have a quick look at the economic outlook for Asia in 2024. Economic sentiment varies across markets through China, Hong Kong, Japan, and Singapore, and they all exhibit a sense of caution for the upcoming 12 months due to supply chain disruptions, currency fluctuations, and cost pressures. Consequently, the bulk of respondents hold a passive outlook in terms of the economic climate and employment opportunities in the next 2 to 5 years. Hiring freezes and restructuring initiatives have become particularly commonplace in markets such as China, Singapore, and Thailand. These actions reflect a proactive stance as they aim to optimize operational efficiency and weather the economic uncertainties. For Japan, while grappling with soaring labor costs, we face a unique challenge stemming from the aging workforce. Both clients and employees will be needing to rise above those challenges in 2024. Now let's have a look at the salary expectations. So our salary shows that more employers across Asia, the light blue color here, are hopeful of avoiding salary cuts or a lack of raises this year, as compared to employees in the dark blue color who actually remain cautious over expectations of salary increases. The bulk of employers are actually planning raises between 3 and 6% though. Yet the opposite is also true at the higher end of the spectrum. Employees hopeful for a large increase are likely to experience higher odds of disappointment, as more employers were not as willing to match those expectations. However, adjusted to each respective market's consumer price inflation, workers in Japan and Singapore stand to be hit the hardest, with a large proportion of wages, up to 53% of employees, falling behind those economic changes. So in response to the changing market landscape, employee priorities have undergone a significant transformation this year. Traditional factors like salaries no longer hold the top spot as the primary reason for employees contemplating job changes. In fact, a lack of career progression and desire for new challenges has taken precedence. This suggests a heightened focus on long-term professional growth and development as the key driving force behind employment decisions in these markets. In aligning with the shift in trends, employees choosing to remain with their employers are also exhibiting consistent patterns. Notably, the once dominant factor of salary packages is no longer the primary reason to stay. Instead, work-life balance has taken precedence as the top-rated consideration. Flexible working options also remains very high in the ranking. Employers should engage talent early on regarding career progression and share business challenges to provide opportunities for growth, as well as review work-life balance initiatives and flex work policies. In the latter section, we will showcase the specific market nuances for Japan. So, on remote work, a return to office trend is universally observed, signaling a shift back to office work. However, looking at Asia as a whole, we observe that Japan stands out with some distinctive trends. Among individuals employed by multinational corporations in Japan, only 22.9% reported conducting their work solely from the office, indicating a widespread adoption of flexible work arrangements by companies in Japan. Industry-specific statistics and further details are provided within the Asia Salary Guide. However, employees generally agree with the current work arrangement policies of their company. So lastly, before I ask Saihena to dive into the Japan findings, let's spend a moment to look at the AI influence in recruitment at Asia level. So given the current prominence of AI, particularly in recruitment, it would be neglectful not to gauge the stance of employers in this evolving landscape. We observed that organizations in Asia remained hesitant about fully embracing AI, given the ethical concerns it introduces. In fact, 40% of respondents do not use AI in their recruitment process and have no plans in the next year. This, however, is despite significant support for use of AI tools among HR practitioners and job applicants themselves, whereby, in fact, 76% of HR practitioners support the use of AI tools for work tasks, while 47% of job applicants have used AI in their recent job application. 40% of HR practitioners are unsure, however, or disagree with their organization when asked, is your organization embracing AI sufficiently to stay relevant? Initial discussions to explore the implementation of AI in the workplace will become crucial, forming the foundations needed to embrace and optimize the tool.
Now let's take a closer look at Japan. We will focus on several angles like hiring context, employee career development plans, how to attract and retain top talent in Japan. Firstly, let's focus on the hiring context. Companies in Japan did not increase permanent hiring as much as they said they would earlier in 2023. Over 58% of companies said that they would increase permanent staff in 2023. However, only 32.6% actually increased. And we think that that's why they're a little bit more cautious for 2024. Only 33.7% of companies answered that they will increase perm staff in 2024. In terms of contracting staff level change, nearly 30% of companies said that they increase their contracting staff in 2023. And just over 20% said that they will do so in 2024. What are the challenges faced by companies in 2023? Different from any other Asian markets, Japan faces a unique challenge coming from its aging workforce. This demographic trend accentuates the importance of finding innovative solutions to attract and retain talent, as more individuals delay retirement or seek to come back to employment to supplement their life savings. Followed are the aging workforce. Here we have four other challenges for hiring in 2023. What are employees considering when it comes to their career development? We found that employees in Japan were quite open to taking up new opportunities. 51% respondents, more than half, said that they plan to change organizations in 2024. Another significant difference between Japan and the rest of Asia is that employees in Japan were less likely to seek growth within their own companies. Only 26% answer that they will remain in their company and seek a new role, which is the lowest across Asia. Now, let's take a look at the most exciting part of this guide. So, are salaries increasing? Both employees and employers were a little conservative when it came to exploring raises over 10%. So if you look at on the rightmost side, these are the percentages of employees and employers that answered that they expect to see increases over 10%. Interestingly, the percentage of employers looking to offer increments in the 6 to 10% range almost tripled from previous year. Look at the light blue chart in the bottom towards the right side. So it says 9.8%. That increased from 3.4% last year. However, employees seem to hold more conservative estimates within this bracket, just 5.3%. The most pronounced gap between employee expectations and employer readiness is seen in the bracket of no salary increments. Nearly half of the employees in Japan answer that they don't expect to see any change in salaries. Meanwhile, most companies expect to give raises in 2024. Up to 63.8% of employers expect less than 3% salary increase, including no change and decrease in 2024. So with consumer price inflation trending at 1.5%, I think some employees would actually have some trouble keeping pace with economic pressures in the coming year. This table compares what our respondents said in 2023 and what they said in 2024. We've noticed a generally conservative estimate in raises across different brackets, except for the 6 to 10% range. So except the 6 to 10% range increase, the expectations for all other ranges show decrease in 2024 compared to last year. Next, I'd like to explore trends that are helpful in retaining top talent. In Japan, employee priorities have undergone a significant transformation this year. Traditional factors like salaries no longer hold a top spot as the primary reason for employees thinking of job changes in Japan. The desire for new challenges has taken the top spot. This signals a broader reevaluation of professional goals, underscoring the growing importance of career advancement in shaping employment decisions across the region. Employees that are choosing to remain within their companies are also showing consistent patterns. Work-life balance and flexible working options are the number one reason why employees are staying. This shift shows how important it is to create a holistic and adaptable work environment in order to retain top talent. When it comes to overseas career opportunities in the next 2 years, a compelling majority, exceeding 50% in all 6 markets, including Japan, express a keen interest in relocating. 33.7% of respondents said that they're extremely keen to work overseas in the next 2 years, and another 15.7% said they're keen to do so. The enthusiastic attitude towards career development overseas is evident, but what factors are motivating it? Our Asian respondents outside Japan, so China, Malaysia, Singapore, and Thailand, they answered career advancement was a top reason for wanting to work abroad. On the other hand, in Japan, personal growth is cited as number one reason. Following closely in the second place is career advancement, and in the third place, there's a higher proportion of respondents citing cultural immersion. In order to retain talent and mitigate the risk of attrition to competitors, it's crucial for companies to effectively communicate global career opportunities to employees. This strategy can serve as a compelling incentive for talent to stay and grow within the organization. So now let's look at the employee value propositions. In Japan, employees displayed a strong inclination towards being empowered by engaging in challenging and impactful work. This tells us that meaningful contributions and opportunities for professional development are what draws employees to their workplaces in Japan. So obviously, there are opportunities for companies who want to engage their future talent. We recommend one, increase the visibility of internal hiring. Two, improve your company's global talent mobility. And lastly, create a more flexible work environment. Last but not the least, in terms of Japan findings, let's take a look at AI. When it comes to AI influence at work, our study finds that Japan stands out with the lowest level of confidence. To put it simply, both employees and employers are not very confident in equipping themselves with the appropriate AI skills to succeed. 69% of respondents disagree or are unsure if they're sufficiently equipped with the required AI skills to succeed in their current roles in the next 2 to 5 years. 78% of them disagree or unsure their employer will support them to develop the necessary AI skills. Now I'll pass it over to Guy again, who will share with us our insights on several key sectors that Hayes is operating in.
So I hope that you found the first two parts, the Asia highlights, the Japan key findings, useful so far. Now I would just like to spend some time with everyone to spotlight just a few of the key industries, namely accountancy and finance, engineering, life sciences, and technology. Let's firstly look at the accountancy and finance sector. So Japan is currently in an interesting position of slow and steady growth in wages and prices within its economy that's being driven by success in its domestic manufacturers, obviously a buoyant Tokyo Stock Exchange and large outside investment. However, all of this is being squeezed by the weak yen and a moderate uptick in inflation. Both domestic and foreign companies are anticipated to approach recruitment budgets with caution amid ongoing global uncertainty. However, flexibility will be key in making hiring decisions to establish solid candidate pipelines for fear of missing out on top talent in the market due to lack of speed. When it comes to engineering, there's definitely a shortage of candidates in the industry. Many companies require candidates who possess highly scarce qualifications, resulting in a lack of applications. In addition, industry-specific factors such as the perceived need for extensive overtime, limited annual leave usage, and lower salary offers contribute to some negative perceptions of the industry. To address this, companies can do a few things, such as improving the working environment, offering training, and increasing public relations and marketing communication around these things to help make themselves more appealing. Additionally, they may consider actively recruiting foreign workers, enhancing talent acquisition resources, or collaborating with external recruitment agencies to attract a larger pool of candidates. Moving on to life sciences, whilst major pharmaceutical companies have exhibited signs of slowing down, the rise of biotech continues to drive innovation and talent acquisition, especially with the influence of technologies like AI reshaping the healthcare landscape. Companies today seek candidates with a broader range of experience rather than specializing in just one area, valuing those who contribute through the entire life cycle of a compound. The hiring landscape reflects a growing demand for candidates with soft skills, proficiency in multiple languages, and of course, cross-cultural communication abilities aligning with global business strategies. Additionally, hybrid working arrangement remains the most preferred option for the vast majority of candidates in life sciences. Last but not least, let's look at the technology sector. While there are still exciting new projects and initiatives driving tech hiring, as well as, of course, hiring for backfill positions, the overall atmosphere is no longer characterized by the aggressive recruitment that we saw in previous years. Global macroeconomic factors and a general slowdown have influenced some companies, impacting their confidence in expansion, opting instead for stability. Even so, the market faces a shortage of qualified candidates due to the limited increase in the number of IT graduates over the years. This scarcity becomes evident when strong candidates do become available, as they are in high demand and often receive multiple offers. In niche areas with high requirements, job openings may persist for extended periods or go unfilled. Additionally, work from home flexibility and work-life balance continue to be sought after and were especially valued by female candidates in this industry. Candidates, on the other hand, are increasingly required to take personality or technical skill tests as part of their interview preparation, as skills become a key factor in hiring decisions. Now, before we move on to the Q&A session, we would like to share with everyone our recommendations for both clients and our candidates. Here are the recommendations for clients. Firstly, given employee priorities have undergone a significant transformation this year, professional growth and development would be critical beyond salary remuneration and bonus motivations. Be transparent about the business challenges and seek to drive clarity on the skill set growth possible on the job. This could also include, for example, internal transfer opportunities or added projects to stretch employees in preparation for future promotions or team structure adjustments. Amidst the cautious hiring context, steering existing teams and limited new joinees towards high performance should also incorporate a degree of support. This could include targeted and personalized talent development initiatives. For example, considering where your industry is headed in terms of AI, automation, to formulate a talent development plan. The number 3 tip, work-life balance initiatives and flexible work policies remain highly rated employee value propositions. Whilst employees have adjusted expectations since COVID lockdowns, retaining a degree of flex will be an attractive value proposition to retain or attract the best talent. Increased scrutiny, the last point here, scrutiny on resource spend could restrict permanent headcounts, which are crucial for delivering business results. However, one other option is using contract workers with a niche skill set to enable organizations to showcase tangible business results before further long-term investments. Okay, and now, sorry to make you wait. Now for employees and job seekers on this session, here are our recommendations for you. Firstly, seek clarity on immediate and long-term business goals and challenges with a healthy dose of realism in terms of the economic challenges. Align your intended professional goals to these organization targets. Gaining actual portfolio achievements will position you well once hiring demand does pick up. Secondly, actively seek out upskilling opportunities to keep pace with the skill set needs in your profession and industry. This could mean self-funded training, internal transfers, additional side hustles or hobbies. And thirdly, organizations will still be navigating change. Be aware of the in-demand roles and various departments structuring in and around the region to anticipate how roles and skill sets are evolving. Reach out to a recruitment expert to chart this journey ahead of time, as preparation can take time. It could involve CV preparation, but at the same time, also take opportunities for personal networking as well.
We'll now move on to the question and answer section. Please feel free to submit your questions in the chat, which is open now. You should be able to type into it. We also have gotten a few questions that were actually registered when you first answered. So thank you so much for your interest. So let's have a look. There's an interesting question that was submitted through the invitation that I'd like to raise. So this attendee asked, I've noticed more people around me starting side jobs recently, and I'm considering it myself. Are there really many people doing side jobs? Thank you. Regarding side jobs, according to this survey that we conducted, actually 20% of employed individuals in Japan responded that they have one side job. Additionally, 5.6% mentioned they have two side jobs, and a small percentage, 1%, mentioned having three or more side jobs. Considering that approximately 1 in 4 people in Japan have a side hustle, it's becoming quite common. The main motivation for side job seems to be more for economic reasons. I think majority, about 27%, actually mentioned this for economic reasons. However, another 35% also mentioned that pursuing side jobs as an extension of their hobbies or for like a skill improvement. So perhaps they're thinking about their future career plans after retirement. Many of those past the age of 60 want to participate in labor force. So side hustles could sort of give them some options. Before you start any side business or side job though, outside your normal 9 to 6, I definitely recommend checking your current company's regulations around this. Let's see. Mr. Tetsuya Ijima asked, is there an in-depth analysis or data covering what areas of career progression that the employees seek? Um, Examples like proceeding as management or focusing in a professional area. Short answer is, unfortunately, we do not have an in-depth analysis on what areas that they're actually looking for. But as we mentioned actually in this survey before, um, what's interesting is that the majority of the employees still do not ask for employers to help with their growth in Japan. Um, so about half of the respondents in Japan mentioned that their current employer doesn't support them in acquiring new skills. And they also do not expect their current employers
With some of the questions we're getting, there's some great questions here asking for a little bit more in-depth industry-focused analysis. So obviously, we'll recommend that in a moment we'll give you a link to be able to download the full salary guide, which will give you a full breakdown of the information that we have per industry. However, there might be some situations where it's actually going to be more beneficial if you actually speak with one of our specialist recruiters in that space. I saw there was a very good question here regarding the hiring within life sciences and were those positions mainly higher level or marketing and maybe not so many opportunities for researchers. I think if you're able to speak with one of our consultants, we'll be able to explain a little bit more in more detail. But there are opportunities across various levels, and it just does depend on the organizations that we're looking at. So I think if we're not able to answer the questions or you're not able to find the details in the report, please do reach out to us or contact us after this, and we'll give you a call directly and answer the questions that you have, if that's okay.
Thank you, Guy. There was also a question about quiet quitting in Japan. Actually, that is not exactly an area that we have surveyed into. However, 51% of the respondents that we asked answered that they're looking for new opportunities, which is a significant amount. Whether they have already had that discussion with their current employers about their career progression in their current companies or not, the fact that they are thinking and a very small percentage of employees are actually seeking actively to develop their careers within their companies and having these conversations. It shows that more likely there's a good level of quiet quitting going on in Japan. If there's any other questions that are a little bit more generic, we'll be happy to answer.
I think there's some good questions that have come in around work-life balance and flexible time arrangement at work, and what's the relation and hint between the difference between both, looking at Japanese employees or even say younger people. I think possibly it's something that has been considered more than we've ever considered it before over the last few years. Obviously, I definitely do see a trend, particularly with not just younger candidates, but also, for example, working parents or people with other care responsibilities, where it's very much seen as a necessity and something that companies should really be working towards, having some element of flexible work arrangements. I think one thing that really stood out for me in this year's survey was the difference that you saw between the percentage of employees in Japan who have flexible work arrangements compared to the rest of Asia, where there's a very large proportion are required to come into the office. So I think Japan has quietly moved in that direction, but I do think it's fair to say that it really is one of the top priorities that our consultants do hear from candidates when they're talking to them, and it is something which does make it a little bit easier for companies that do have a bit more flexibility to be able to recruit when they are able to offer a little bit more flexibility. So very good question, and I think it is something which not just younger people but the whole workforce is appreciating as being something which is valuable for both employers and employees.
And just to add to that point, we also mentioned in the presentation today, approximately 30% of foreign companies in Japan require full in-person work. For Japanese companies, if I include Japanese companies, about 35% of these companies require full in-person work. So there's quite a bit of difference here. But we also found that IT industry seems to have the highest level of full remote work. About 80% of those working in the IT industry have some sort of remote work, and 30% are actually fully remote. So with generations, unfortunately, we don't have the data, but it's very clear that this is a very compelling employee value proposition.
I think there's a question there about does the weak yen affect the exchange rate? Does it affect the salaries? Within our data, the data is counted in yen, so there isn't an impact from the exchange rate within this data. But I can see there are some other questions here for slightly more detailed breakdown of the data. Certainly, you can have a look at the salary guide when you download it. If there isn't a sufficient breakdown in data, please let us know, and we can certainly have a conversation and see what else we can give you to break it down into the relevant areas.
Okay, so thank you very much. That's a wrap of our launch seminar webinar for 2024 Hays Asia Salary Guide. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today. As I mentioned in the beginning, the webinar has been recorded, so for those who actually missed some of the details, don't worry, you're going to be receiving a copy of this recording so you can actually check back into the details. But for the actual salary guide, which includes much more information than what we just shared, you will receive a soft copy in the following days. Or you can actually scan the QR code right here to download your free copy right now. You can also access it on hays.co.jp. There are 2 more QR codes that would take you to Hays LinkedIn and our website. So you can go to hays.co.jp, access Hays Asia Salary Guide, as well as actually some other reports that we've produced in the past. Hays is one of the most followed recruitment agencies on LinkedIn. You can stay connected with us and become part of our growing network by following Hays on LinkedIn. Okay, so thank you very much, everyone, again, for joining us today. Please feel free to reach out to me, Guy, or any Hays consultant if you have any questions or inquiries. We're very happy to help. We're here to help as your lifelong recruitment and career partner. Thank you, and have a lovely afternoon.